Victorians who have tested positive for Covid-19 have defied the stay-at-home order and continue to go to work and visit supermarkets and pharmacies. It comes after a record 723 new cases overnight and 13 deaths, the biggest since the pandemic began, with authorities warning of more hospitalisations and deaths in the coming days. And from midnight this Sunday, masks will be compulsory across the state as the virus spreads beyond Melbourne. And as Katie Doyle reports, all of this means the lockdown looks set to last beyond the remaining 3 weeks.
1 in 5 Victorians have now been tested for Covid-19. That's over 1.5 million tests and one of the highest testing rates in the world. But 3 weeks into Victoria's 6-week lockdown, the virus continues to take hold. 723 new cases overnight and 13 deaths, all people aged in their 70s, 80s and 90s. And Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews warned the picture is grim, especially for the elderly.
In terms of hospital, there are 312 Victorians in hospital, 34 of those are in intensive care. Aged care, there are a total of 913 active cases in aged care.
More than 30 teams from the Australian Defence Force are going door to door throughout Melbourne, checking if people who have tested positive are at home.
So they have door-knocked 798 properties. There were 269 that were visited yesterday. Now, I don't want this to be seen as criticism or blame, but I'm obliged to point out that there were a number of people who were not home. They will be referred to Victoria Police. There were also a number of other people who, when there was a discussion, the person that the ADF and the Health Department as a joint team were looking for, the person who has a confirmed diagnosis having coronavirus, they've got a positive test, they weren't home, but a family member was, and the family member helpfully pointed out that that person, a positive coronavirus case, was in fact at work.
Daniel Andrews said the message to stay home was not getting through for around 10% of the state's population. And some who had tested positive thought it was okay to go to work, visit a pharmacy to fill a prescription, or even pop to the supermarket.
Too many people are still going to work when they have symptoms. Too many people are going to work, even some, when they have a positive test result. That's a small number, though. I think a bigger number are people that are between having the test taken and getting the results. They are still presenting to work. And for so long as that continues, then we will continue to see numbers go up. The only way that numbers will come down and do so steadily is if people, when they are unwell, even very mildly unwell, go and get tested quickly and then isolate until they get their test result, and then, of course, based on that result, do as they're asked to do from that point onwards.
He warned businesses would pay the price if people did not stay home.
We will not get businesses reopened, and we will not see many businesses survive, which is what I want to achieve here. It's what we all want to achieve here, for so long as people continue to go to work when they are unwell.
More than 700 healthcare workers have now tested positive for the virus, and there are now 255 active cases in regional Victoria. From midnight on Sunday, face masks will be compulsory for all residents of Victoria, and from midnight tonight, residents in some regional towns and cities will no longer be allowed visitors in their homes. Despite this, Daniel Andrews said hospitality venues would remain open.
As I know that it may seem, as I said, counterintuitive that you can go to the pub but you can't go to your mate's place, but ultimately that's where the data drives that decision. The data drives that decision. That's where the transmission is. It's not in cafes and restaurants, but it is in small numbers in people's homes, one family to another.
Meanwhile, in New South Wales, 19 new cases were reported overnight and 4 Sydney schools were closed today. Queensland reported 3 new cases, including 2 women who dined at the Apollo restaurant in Sydney's Potts Point and did not self-isolate on their return home. Queensland has said it will be closing its borders to all Sydney-siders from Saturday. For Checkpoint, I'm Katie Doyle.